congratulations on this album. I've had a chance to take a listen to it, and it's absolutely sensational, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun making it.
John, this album, it has such a great mood, and that mood is an urban city after dark. Tell us a little bit about how you guys came up with that concept and how you captured that mood so well on the album.
Well, I had been fascinated with New York City, the late 70s, early 80s, when New York City was kind of in decay, It was a rough time for the city, the late 70s and early 80s. And there was a darkness to it that I just kind of found was kind of pretty fertile ground for writing, And so we started to kind of develop characters in that sort of, that environment, And it's fascinating to me the way that cities work. And believe it or not, I'm from a small town. I live in a pretty small town in Michigan, but I'm always fascinated by how quick the city moves and how on any given evening, in any major city, there can be, 1,000, 10,000 different stories going on at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The New York City in those times, in the 70s and the 80s, tell us a little bit about that, because we've had it brought to life on the cinema screen over recent years, because I'm not sure if you're aware of, but when, with the Christian Bale Batman trilogy and now the new Batman, Gotham City is actually based on New York from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I got into it, believe it or not, when I was a kid, my father was a driver, an over-the-road semi-truck driver, and one trip he took me on, he left home when I was young, but he took me to New York City, and it would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. It was the first time that I'd ever seen, people living, sleeping over the sewer grate because of the warm steam coming out, people eating out of the garbage can, and I know that sounds kind of dark, but, for a young kid, it was really eye-opening to what the rest of the world was like outside, my little neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then as I got older and kind of followed that, a lot of music I love is from New York City. The Dolls and the Ramones and television and Blondie and CBGBs and all that kind of stuff. I just find it to be fascinating and great to write about, because there's so many different stories you can tell within that. Obviously, you can tell Batman's story in New York City.
Yeah.
So I just like that it makes the writing, it gives the characters and the songs, a place where they could, it's not a concept album or anything, but, anybody in any of those songs, they could all meet up on one corner in a city,
Yeah.
And I like that. I like to be able to tie those stories together.
Were the characters that you developed, were they kind of based on people that you had seen over the years, or people that you knew?
A mix of those things. Some of it was me, where I would kind of plant myself into that scenario with my own kind of dreams and hopes and aspirations. A lot of it is also connected to, I grew up in a time when musicians, when they wanted to make it, a lot of us, had to go to a bigger city like Los Angeles. Our EP, Headed West, was written about the Sunset Strip scene in the 1980s, and that was a concept EP. But yeah, the characters can be based on people I know in my day-to-day life that I just insert into that city background and be descriptive with their stories within that environment.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how this album came together, because like you said, your EP came out last year. Did this album come together relatively quickly, or had you already started on this album before the EP dropped last year?
We did. Like, by the time the EP came out last year, we were probably, 3 or 4 songs into the new album, and we weren't sure if Golden Robot, our record label, was going to pick us up for the full length, and so we were really grateful when they did. Todd, my partner Tom Long, and I, we pretty much stay working all the time. Now in the modern time, we can do it over the internet and file exchanges and things like that. But we're already 4 or 5 songs into the next album right now as we're speaking. So we are always working and always kind of getting ready for the next thing, because that's how you have to be now. The landscape has changed so much. Some of my favorite bands, I remember hearing Iron Maiden, they would make an album and then they would tour for 2 years and take 6 months off, then make an album and tour for 2 years. They did that through the entire 80s.
Yeah.
Now you got to have product out. And we're not a touring band yet. We're looking at some limited live engagements and putting a band together for that. But, we got to have new songs out for people. And we've been lucky, man. We found an audience and we want to keep sharing music with them.
I was going to ask that. How difficult has it been to get your music out there during the pandemic? Because you guys kind of arrived on the scene for a lot of people during the pandemic, and you haven't been able to get out there and do any live shows.
I think right now that's the kind of the X factor for Ghosts of Sunset, is really getting a live band together and going out and doing some limited stuff. My partner Todd and I grew up together. We went to high school together. We lived... when we did the EP, we lived literally across the country. I live in Michigan. He lived in Alaska at the time. He's in Florida now. We work over the internet, video chats and all that for songwriting. But I think the live thing is where that's how we grew up. We've been playing live music for 30-some years. So we do want to get out and bring it to people. It's just, working out the logistics. And when I say logistics, you and I both know that means money.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I loved about this album was that you have different guitarists on just about every track, and I'm amazed that you've got a guitarist from one of my favorite bands, the Verve Pipe, on this album. Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you picked the guitarists that you wanted to work with on this album, and how do you do that approach to them in the first place?
Yeah, the approach is always the same for us, and it's basically like this. If you like the song, we'd love to have you play on it. If not, no hard feelings, but we don't want to waste your time or our time. If someone's not digging the music, they're not going to put their heart into it anyhow. And then what we did is these songs kind of told us, hey, it would be great with this person or that person, or maybe we're even trying to catch a little bit of the vibe of these bands. Todd, my partner, actually played drums for the Verve Pipe, so he and I both knew Lou, the guitar player, through our music scene, and we're connected to the original Verve Pipe guitarist, a guy named AJ Dunning, who's a close friend and a great musician. And it was really just approaching folks and saying, hey man, if you like the song, we'd love to have you. And we got really lucky. Everybody we asked was ready to come on board and help us out. And these guitar players basically only played the guitar solos, the solo parts or the lead guitar part, and myself and Todd did the rest of the guitars. But we've been fortunate to work with some great people. And Lou from the Verve Pipe was one of them. He played some great stuff and copped exactly the vibe we were looking for. And all the guitar players did, to be honest.
Did you have a wish list of guitarists that you wanted to work with? Were you like kids with a Christmas list and ticking it off as you approach people?
Yeah, there's some of that, I mean, on the EP, I grew up on LA Guns, so I love Tracy Guns. Scotty Griffin from Stephen Riley's LA Guns played with us. Mark Knight from Bang Tango. I remember watching Bang Tango's videos on Headbangers Ball. We did, and there's still a wish list of people we'd love to have play, and some of it is limited access. It's a little easier to access some people than to shoot an email to Jimmy Page and see what he's up to.
Yeah, you mentioned Jimmy Page. Do you have an ultimate guitarist that you would like to work with?
For a guy like me, certainly I'm a classic rock and roll. I grew up on. Obviously a lot of my legends, the guys I grew up loving, are gone now. You can't call it Jefferson or John Lennon or Prince or whoever. But right now, boy, it'd be pretty cool to have someone like Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones and the Faces, or more modern stuff. Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi would be great. the list goes on and on. I love music. I love guitar players, and certainly if you have Jimmy Page's number, I'll take it when we're done here.
Definitely. I wish I did as well, but no, I don't, unfortunately. I do know a great guitarist here in Australia, though, that's always looking for work. So, yeah.
Cool.
But going back to the tracks on the album, we started playing No Saints in the City, the title track, and our listeners just absolutely fell in love with it. Does that kind of ease a little bit of the pressure for you guys with the album coming out, knowing that people out there have loved the singles so much?
It certainly, I will say there have been moments when we're talking about it and we were releasing singles and people were connecting with them, and there would be times where we went, oh man, they haven't heard, this song yet, or this song yet, or this song yet. So yeah, as far as easing pressure, we don't have a ton of pressure on ourselves, but I will say when we found an audience, and they connected with us and we connected with them, the pressure is, hey man, I want to make some songs that they'll enjoy like I do, because we're all the same, right? We obviously like the same kind of music. I like when people can hear our influences in these songs and go, hey, I hear this, or I hear that, or I hear Hanoi Rocks, or Fast Pussycat, or Enough's Enough, or Night Ranger, whatever it might be. It's no different than someone coming over to my house and me putting a record on. The difference is, I guess, I'm singing on the record and Todd and I made the songs up. But it's no different than me going, hey, I want you to check this out.
Yep, definitely. Now, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, so I'll finish off with a couple of quick questions. First of all, what are your plans for the rest of this year? And being on an Australian label, is there a chance we might see you in Australia in the future?
Certainly the rest of this year, we're still writing. We're trying to get some live gigs together. There's been talk of going over to Europe. We'd love to come to Australia. I'll tell you, and I play in a kind of a 70s rock and roll cover band, and the bass player in that band was a member of the Screaming Tribesmen.
Yep.
Who were big down in Australia. A lot of great music has come down there. So we'd love to come down, anywhere they have electricity and there are people who want to hear us, we would love to be. It's just, we're just coming out of that pandemic stuff. Travel is changing, and again, we have some of those obstacles we have to overcome. But yeah, we would love to come see everybody.
Definitely. And John, to finish off, what would you like to say to our listeners before they go out and grab a copy of this amazing album?
Well, I'd like to say what those influences you're hearing in there, if you think you hear something, chances are you do hear it. It's because we love music. We love all sorts of music. Obviously, we love rock and roll and 80s hard rock. And we're looking to connect with people over music because it's changed our lives. Music has changed. It was my best friend growing up was rock and roll. I grew up poor in a single parent home, and rock and roll was my salvation, and it was my security blanket. It gave me my identity. And man, if we can share that with other people and they connect with the songs like I connected with other people's songs, I'd say that we're just completing that circle and giving a little bit back that we've taken from it.